All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We're going to talk some World Cup today. A lot has happened in the past 24 hours. We'll break down all of it. Then we're going to talk NFL. We're going to talk Thanksgiving games. But let's start off with something's not on the rundown. We're going to get into it. Argentina, Saudi Arabia. Just a ridiculous game of football. Did you wake up for it, Drew? I guess on the West Coast, it was pretty unkind.
Jay, this is one of the ones I was specifically sweating out because I got to make sure that no team scores 7 goals. So I was up and I watched it, and I am in the camp that Argentina gets a complete pass. I mean, yes, you would like to get a confidence building win to start out, but the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia played the match of their lives. They got 2 goals when their expected goals was like 0.1 or something. And realistically, the defense and the goalkeeping in the final 40 minutes of that game were just unbelievable for Saudi Arabia. They had some luck. They had some solid play, but I don't think it's repeatable for Saudi Arabia. And I would not worry about Argentina coming out in the next match and really showing you some splash. What this does do, though, is it really shuffles the potential knockout shape. We had kind of talked about how the futures building process was going to be throughout round 2 of the knockout of the group stage, accumulate positions on teams that were going to find their way to the bottom half of the draw because Argentina and Brazil were going to be on the top. Well, now you have a potential for Argentina being on the bottom, Brazil being on the top. If Argentina comes through second, I think that's very realistic. It's going to depend a lot on this Poland-Mexico match coming up here shortly. But this throws a little bit of chaos into what was a pretty high likelihood outcome and is going to make some value bets to be made in the futures market, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't care for this result, Drew. I didn't care for it at all. Someone holding a Messi golden ball player of the tournament ticket, woke up with my almost 5-year-old daughter and watched Argentina. I mean, I know you're giving them a pass. They did not look good. I was speaking to a friend throughout who made, I think, the apt point that it seemed like Argentina, their only move was the FIFA through ball, hitting the triangle button, delivering the through ball, because they had no alternatives. Every corner was just dismissed. They're not very tall, the Argentinian soccer team. No. Their lack of size, I think, showed up. And I think this is an example of, yes, XG, it was so lopsided. I think it was even more lopsided than England's win over Iran. Yeah, but watching the game, I didn't think that was an unjust result. Where Saudi Arabia, yes, their chances were very limited, but they took them. And then defensively, they never melted. There was never a barrage of really clear opportunities for Argentina in the second half that they butchered. It was just Angel Di Maria just passing it to the opposition time and time again. Messi, I don't know why he didn't pull the trigger on a quintessential Messi shot. I think in the 4th minute of stoppage time, decided to twirl around and then fell over. Just a really strange game. And I mean, good for Neymar golden ball ticket holders like myself, I guess, and for Brazil ticket holders in general, because certainly I think they are big picture. Perhaps the biggest beneficiary of this is that they won't have to play Argentina in the semi if Argentina don't win the group, which is now very much in peril. So a lot to unpack, but it'll be a lot clearer, I think, after Mexico-Poland. I am cheering for a draw in that game to restore order in the group. Well, let's talk about USA and Wales. Started off brightly for Team USA, and then the second half they completely fizzled out. I think ultimately it was a just result, with Gareth Bale converting the penalty to seal out a 1-1 draw. Now, things are just much as they were before the game, where USA are now minus 115 to qualify from the group, which is basically their price before the game. What did you see from Team USA, and how confident are you that they get out of the group now?
Yeah, it was kind of the worst case scenario from a handicapping standpoint, because all of the things you were excited about, you got confirmation. And then the things you were concerned about, you got confirmation. They didn't have great finishing quality. They didn't have any kind of depth at all. When they went to the bench, it was just, oh my gosh, why are these guys out here? And I think in general, it was a tale of two halves, the way you laid it out there. And USA is going to need to lean on their starters for more minutes than other teams are going to have to. If they do come through into the knockout rounds, they're going to be absolutely on fumes. And this next match against England is obviously going to be a very, very hard one for these young men. And I think, the idea of them just being able to play clean defense, the idea of them being able to control possession, throw that out the window. Like, they're going to have to create opportunities in the England match. They're going to have to go, score for score with these guys, and it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be a lot more wide open type of game than what I had originally conceived, just having seen them now play once against Wales. If Wales had a little bit better finishing quality in that 60 to 80 minute range, they probably win that game. They had a lot of chances where they were knocking on the door. It was solid goalkeeping from our guy, but I think realistically, with better attacking players for England, it's not going to be a clean sheet for Team USA on Friday.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. USA, England's price to win that game is floating around -200, -180, that type of range, which seems about right. I think this group clearly now comes down to who can lose to England by less and who can beat Iran by more. And so I think, we'll have a much clearer idea after the England game. But let's get into an even more lopsided matchup for one of the countries that one of us are citizens for. And France are -400 favorites against the great soccer nation of Australia. I'll just start by saying that I'm not confident at all. I think -400 is exactly right. This Australian team, I mean, Australia have had plucky teams at the World Cup before. I think certainly back to, 2006, 2002, where, teams with Harry Kewell, Mark Viduka, Lucas Neal, Brett Emerton, like the teams were loaded with, quality Premier League players who bizarrely always played for Leeds or Everton. But, this team right now, it's not in the same caliber. Like, these players are playing in the Scottish League, the best player on the team. Aiden Hrustic, he plays for Hellas Verona in Italy. It's not the same level of team. They had a arduous route to get here, needing a very dramatic penalty shootout against Peru, which was one of the more bizarre sporting moments of the year. But I'm not expecting much from Australia. I think the Denmark drawing with Tunisia certainly helps them in the group, where now it's viable they could get out. But I'm not feeling too optimistic. Do you think France rolls in this one, Drew?
I am buyer beware on France. I think market has them rated, and this is not just in this particular match, but just generally for the tournament. They may win 2-0. Like, don't freak out here. I think this is still probably correct, right team favored. But there's a lot of warning signs here about France. They certainly have not had an especially impressive workup to this tournament, either in results of their matches played or in health. They are missing their two most important midfielders in N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba. Not available. Karim Benzema also not available. Like, those are three relatively high. Those are world-class players. They would. They may have the depth to be able to backfill there in a way that they can at least still be competitive and get into the later stages of this tournament. But I don't think it's going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. There is still a little bit of questions in terms of how this team has come together since their World Cup victory last time out. It just seems a little bit, unclear that, that there is, solid leadership in that locker room. So it's still buyer beware for me on France overall. And I think, if ultimately they come out and put on a show against Australia, then I think that tells us more about Australia than it tells us about France. But the Socceroos have, they have some pride. I think they can keep this within, 2-3 goal margin.
Okay, 2-3 goal margin. Fantastic. Sounds really good. Your 7 goals might be in jeopardy. I think, France certainly, like, long term, not very bullish on their prospects at this World Cup. I just think with just missing Pogba and N'Golo Kante, who are, two of their 4 most important players, 2 of their 4 best players, 2 guys who lost the last World Cup, the fact that they're out, and it's Rabiot and Tchouaméni who haven't really played together as the midfield pivot, that's not ideal. I don't think Benzema being out is really as significant as a Ballon d'Or winner missing the World Cup would typically be, just because you've got Kylian Mbappe, you've got Antoine Griezmann. I think that if they play Giroud, he's kind of almost fits better with those guys. You'd rather have Benzema because of the talent, but with Mbappe, and Griezmann, they have enough attacking talent. So anyway, let's hope that Australia can channel the ghosts of 2006 when they very nearly took down Italy in the round of 16 after getting through Turkey and Japan earlier in the group stage. So, France have been prone to disasters at World Cups in the past. I think back in 2002 when they lost 1-0 to Senegal in the opener. So, hopefully we can get them, but I don't think we will. And also a reminder, you can watch Spanish language coverage of all the World Cup matches on Telemundo, including USA, England on Friday.
We're missing one of maybe the key points of this whole thing. France starts slow. They start slow in World Cups. They try to build into the tournament. And I don't know if you remember, but in 2018, where they ultimately went on to become champions, their first match was against Australia. And it took an 81st minute own goal for France to come through there 2-1. So I'm not giving up hope that Australia can pull off the second impossible of the day.
Yeah, I like it. I don't think Didier Deschamps is a great coach either, just quietly, even though he won the World Cup, so he kind of gets a free pass all the time. I'm not sure that he is the best coach. So certainly some disaster potential there, and I'll be cheering for it. Also be cheering for the Detroit Lions, who are +9. Really a kind of Australia World Cup type of team, the Detroit Lions, who are 9-point dogs home to Buffalo. The total is a robust 54. That's the biggest that we've had in a while. The lookout on this was more like 10. It's come down. The total has gone up from the lookout of 52.5. I kind of like the Lions +9. Where are you at?
I was inclined here to try to get involved with Buffalo points as opposed to not laying the points, but just team total over, because the way that they match up against the Detroit defense is like mouth-wateringly solid. Like this is, if Detroit ultimately, covers this big point spread, it's because they get to 28 points, not because they keep Buffalo out from getting to 30. So I think Buffalo will get theirs in this one. It's much more of a question of how fit is the Buffalo defense coming into this game? How prepared are they for the specific kind of unique nature of what Detroit's trying to do offensively? Detroit is not your normal team in terms of some of the concepts they're running offensively. They're a little unique, and that could catch Les Frazier and Buffalo by surprise to a degree. So this looks like a decent over spot. The over obviously has taken an absolute beating, up to 54 right now. Especially in a season where we just have not seen many games get even into this rare air in terms of closing price. This has been one-way traffic to the over, even with the high opener. So up to 10 right now at a couple of the market makers. Buffalo is being bet, over is getting bet. So I think in general, I'm in strong agreement here with the market move on this Tuesday morning.
Yep. I think there's a couple of things. One, let's see how banged up Buffalo's defense is, whether they get some guys back there, because that's been the thing for the past month. They've just been hugely injured on defense. And then the other thing too is that Josh Allen is now, this is 4 games in a row of Josh Allen not being the idea of Josh Allen, where, he's throwing 2 picks of the 3 games prior to Cleveland in each game. And then he ends Cleveland like he was fine. His stat line was okay. 18 for 27. 197 yards, touchdown, no picks, took 2 sacks, but he didn't run the ball at all. 3 carries, 7 yards. And I don't know, he didn't look right. And now it's a short week with the elbow, which presumably is still lingering. So that's just one thing to watch. I'm not sure we're going to get the full Josh Allen experience. Maybe we will. Maybe the extra time helps him, but I would just be a little bit concerned there. And I think also the rest of the way, you just have to project Detroit as being above average offense going forward, like we thought they were at the start of the season, with Amon-Ra back fully healthy, Jamal Williams leading the league in touchdowns, a really solid offensive line, and Jared Goff. I think he had better stat lines in Los Angeles, but I think this is probably the best that Jared Goff has ever played in his career, like relative to his context. So look, I think that this is a team that is going to see plenty of high totals the rest of the way. And this game's going to have repercussions in the futures market as well, because Buffalo, I think their price to win the AFC East right now is kind of ridiculous, that they're so heavily favored over Miami. And as a Miami AFC East ticket holder at +250 from the past couple of weeks, I certainly hope that the Lions win. But I do think that is still value at the current market price. And then Detroit, if they win this, then they're in the playoff picture in the the pretty pitiful NFC. So we'll break all that down afterwards. But Lions are going to be a fun team the rest of the way.
Do you have any inside info? Yeah. Do you have any info or intel? Was Josh Allen, did he have to shovel his own driveway? Because that could do something to your elbow if you're shoveling 6 feet of snow.
Judging by the way that Josh Allen was leaning forward on his runs with his elbow in the game against Minnesota, I don't think he has much regard for his body. So I take him to be a man who shovels his own snow. Everything I've heard about Josh Allen as well from people who have met him and engaged, like he's just 100% approval rating. So I trust he's a man who shovels his own snow. Drew, just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in the World Cup, college football, and the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, there will be 2 opportunities to win $100,000 this week by playing Sunday Night 7. Your first chance is guessing the outcome between the Pats and Vikings on Thanksgiving night, followed by another contest surrounding the Packers and Eagles in Philadelphia Sunday evening. All right, let's talk Giants and Cowboys. This is the only game that I had a proper crack at the opener. Took a lot. Dallas -7.5. So Dallas -8. Well, it's now up to -9. I still don't understand the line. I think I would bet that it's going to close double digits. That would be my inclination. I just think that the Giants, 1, they're not very good and they've never been very good. 2, now they're starting to deal with some serious injuries with Adoree Jackson out 4 to 6 weeks. It's one of their starting corners. Wan'Dale Robinson done for the year, torn ACL. They couldn't do anything against the Detroit defense. Saquon Barkley, 15 carries for 22 yards. So I think this is all going in the wrong direction. I think the Cowboys destroy them. What say you?
That's certainly the read. I tend to skip the Dallas game on Thanksgiving just because I can never get a good read for what that team, how they come into these games. I entirely agree with your thoughts on the opener. This was 2 points too short. It's up to 9.5. It's getting bet now. I thought the total also was a little bit low. I think the loss of Adoree Jackson matters. I think in general, Dallas is going to be able to do a pretty decent job of picking on this weak secondary. And I think in general, the Giants are a team that's going to have to find ways to get their offense going if they're going to want to, stay in this game. If they're going to want to, for a lack of a better term, they got to kind of have to save their season. Like they were 7-2. That was a bad loss to Detroit. If they lose to Dallas here and they're looking down their schedule, it's a lot of games that they are going to be either underdogs like this or, kind of need things to go right to get these wins. If this team, I think, finishes 7-10, which at the beginning of the year, we would have been like 7-10. All right, this is a bad team. Good job, guys. 7-10. If at this point, if they finish 7-10, it's going to be perceived as a disaster. So I think in general, I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see how Dable and company handle the adversity because they were one of the least talented rosters in the NFL to start the season, and they have lost a lot of talented players. And so now here they are, with the absolute reserves in a monumentally important game, and they're 10-point dogs. So I had a little bit of a taste at an over 44 here. It's up to 44.5. I think that's the right directional move here, but you're counting on Giants offensive line being able to block and keep Daniel Jones upright. And Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley are going to basically have to get it all the way, done on the ground by themselves. No Anthony Barr in this game. So interested to see how Dallas utilizes Micah Parsons. But those are all my notes.
Yep. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I think that the Giants right now, they're 30th in the league by PFF grade. They're 21st by DVOA. I say their true talent level right now projects probably halfway between those two, the 25th best team in the league, that type of range. And their schedule, which has been, incredibly easy to this point when you consider that, the Dallas game they played earlier in the season was against Cooper Rush, and they played the Titans in week 1 when the Titans were really kind of flailing to open the season with that loss to the Giants, then getting blown out by the Bills the week after. The rest of the way, it goes obviously at Dallas, Washington twice, Philadelphia, at Minnesota, Indianapolis, at Philadelphia. All those teams are better than the Giants. The Commanders are a better team than the Giants right now because of what the Commanders are doing on defense. So, look, I bet Brian Daboll to win Coach of the Year last week before the Detroit game at plus 600, just because I thought that even if they're really bad, they're much shorter than plus 600 to get to 11 wins, which at that point was just going 4-4. Now it doesn't look so good because they lost that game where they were 3-point favorites. So I think they kind of had to have. But now I think it's all going to fall apart for the Giants. And I think that the Cowboys are going to crush them and continue to make it a 3-horse race in the NFC between Dallas, Philly, and the Niners.
It's a shame we never got a sell high on the Giants, right? Like usually a team like this that overperforms against a soft schedule at some point gets market inflated and you can really kind of pull the rug on them. Never really got a chance to do that with the Giants. I guess maybe last week, if you want to point to they were still just, field goal favorites against the Lions at home. Is the way to pull the rug on the Giants to bet Washington make the playoff? Yes, at plus 150, considering that they have 2 cracks at them and Washington just in general playing like a much better team right now.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I think that as well, Washington get Atlanta this week, which is obviously a very winnable game. So the Commanders, all of a sudden, it feels like they should be 3-8, but somehow they're 6-5 and have a chance to really position themselves well in the NFC. I mean, plus 150 to make the playoffs isn't so appetizing with Washington. I think that if you're looking at that, why don't you go bet Ron Rivera to win Coach of the Year at 100-1? I think that's probably the better play if you're looking to attack Washington. And look, in terms of the sell high point on the Giants, I think it's right now. I still think this line is too small. -9 is a sell high point on the Giants. I think it's up 10.5. So I would be betting the Cowboys. This is my favorite line of the week. And we'll get into a couple ones later on, but this is the one that stands out the most. All right, Drew, download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, let's close out by talking Pats Vikings, the night game. On Thanksgiving night, the line is Vikings -3. The total is 42.5. Christian Darrisaw has been just about the best tackle in football. He is going to be out with a second consecutive concussion. What do you make of this line, Drew? Who do you like?
That particular injury matters in this contest, in my mind. I think the Patriots defense is just primed for another outstanding potential performance. I know this is indoors. I know that there's a lot more talent on the field, particularly with Justin Jefferson out there, than what the Jets brought to the table last week. But the idea that you have, a well-coached and solid pass rush going up against Kirk Cousins, who is immobile and is, missing his most important offensive lineman, I think that makes this game more like a pick'em. And so I think taking Patriots at the plus money right now on the money line is the angle. And I think, the idea that Mac Jones is never going to find any kind of continuity or comfort or positives at all in this offense is tough for me to buy into. I think at some point he will have a game where you're like, okay, all right, he's reminding me of some of the good things that he had last year. And if it never materializes, then that's a question for the offseason, I guess. But I'm fine going to war with the Patriots with Belichick in a primetime game in a short week. Better coach. And again, there are very few kind of situational angles that are still not built into price in the NFL. But the one that is, in my mind, is rookie head coaches on a Thursday night game. If you are a new head coach, it takes years of actually going through this scenario where you realize, okay, we're going to have the stuff we want to run on offense installed the week before, because there is not enough time. There's not enough practice to get the wrinkles that you want installed for a game like this in a short week of prep. And Minnesota going up against a very, very, very talented defense like the Patriots it makes it that much more complicated. Minnesota coming off of a horrific game where they're going to need to make adjustments and need to fix some things makes it that much more complicated. Missing Darisaw makes it that much more complicated. So a lot of, kind of sort of qualitative angles here that I think you can ding the Vikings, and just kind of gives me that much more confidence to go to the window and back a Mac Jones-led Patriots in prime time.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I love the Patriots +3. I think that line is incorrect. I think that, look, Mac Jones coming into the season, I don't think it would have been unreasonable to have him in the same class of quarterback going forward as Kirk Cousins for this year. I don't think that seems wrong, given that even though Kirk Cousins hasn't been very good this year, he's still been much better than Mac Jones. To your point, though, I would not give up on Mac Jones just based on what he did last year, where he was, I believe, top 12 quarterback by luck-adjusted EPA. This year, look, I think that coming off the injury, he played against the Bears, but he was still seemingly a little bit hobbled. And then his 3 games since then where he hasn't been good, 2 games against the Jets, who have an elite pass defense, and then 1 against the Colts where he didn't really have to do anything, and they were just nursing the lead the whole time. So I wouldn't write off Mac Jones yet. He's still got a good offensive line. He's got weapons. So I think that offense will get better as the season goes on. And the defense right now is the best in the league by DVOA. And they are absolutely rolling. Yes, Zach Wilson is horrific and maybe the worst starting quarterback in the league. But at the same time, like, Zach Wilson was able to do a lot more against Buffalo than he was in either game against New England. So I think there is something to be said for just the degree to which Zach Wilson was absolutely pummeled by the New England defense twice. So, look, right now the Vikings are 24th in DVOA as a team, which is obscene for a team that's 8-2. They have a negative point differential marvelously. So I think this line, I think it should be more like 1.5. I think neutral field, the Patriots are probably better than the Vikings at this point with Darisaw out. So I like the Pats here in this spot. So it'd be good to get some action on the Pats and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Drew, favorite time of the show. I get to read the National Dog Show promo, Release the Hounds. It's the Thanksgiving tradition like none other. The National Dog Show presented by Purina. Thousands of dogs, one that you can see if you're watching on YouTube right now on your screen, compete for the title of Best in Show. You can watch on Thanksgiving at noon Eastern on NBC and Peacock. All right, to close out, Drew, looks like we have a question for you on NA.
Oof, I can't win in the NBA right now, man. I'm trying. It's not going well. Absolute golden angle is just coming up completely short for me. I'm going to stick with my guys, the Kangs. I don't expect Ja Morant plays tonight for Memphis. As much as I love Memphis, without Ja, without Bane, this is a team that is going to struggle offensively. And the Kangs, for what it's worth, I don't know if you saw this, #1 offense in the NBA, the Kangs. Very, very cool. So that's the only thing on the card for me for basketball tonight. And I got to tell you, it's not very confident.
No. I mean, I like the Kings as well, +1.5 with the Grizzlies' absences. I don't think Ja Morant's going to play. I'm not sure he's been officially ruled out. I think he's listed doubtful. Highly expect him to miss. Also, don't mind the Lakers +7.5. The Phoenix
I looked
Suns.
at that. I looked at that for a while.
Anthony Davis is playing at like he's not going to be in the mix for MVP or anything, but he's been playing at an MVP level the past week or two. This is the best he's looked since in the bubble when he looked like the best player in basketball. He's been out of his mind. So, look, the Suns are still banged up. I don't mind the Lake show at +7.5 on the road to Phoenix.
I was on the fence there. You might have nudged me into the Lakers camp, but I gotta look a little bit harder at that one because there's some depth questions with both teams in this one.
Yes, it's going to be very ugly. The first 5 minutes of the second quarter, certainly.
Yes.
All right. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please subscribe and rate us. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, go Australia, go Pats, go Cowboys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Go Dogs.